If you used to play Star Wars: The Old Republic and have been wondering about whether it's a good time to return to the game, this video will go through all the pros and cons about the game for returning players, whether you last played a year ago or haven't played since the launch of the game. If you're a new player, you'll want to check out my other video, Is SWTOR Worth Trying, instead. While whether a game is worth trying is a fairly easy question to answer, whether it's worth it for you to return to Star Wars: The Old Republic after playing it in the past is a lot more of a nuanced question to answer. Let's first go over the cost of the game. If you haven't played since launch, you may notice that the game is now available as free-to-play and has 6 expansions. The free-to-play model allows new players to hop into the game without having to commit their wallet, and allows them to play from levels 1 to 60 and experience all 8 of the class stories. But free-to-play accounts do have some restrictions. For example, they can't hold more than 1 million credits and can't equip certain types of gear. If you're a returning player, there's a good chance you might actually be a preferred player rather than a pure free-to-play player. Preferred players are players who have paid for a subscription in the past, and preferred players have less restrictions than free-to-play players, but will still be hit with some of the same restrictions. The good news is both free-to-play and preferred status players are more than able to hop into the game after a break and can visit their characters, continue their class stories, and check out some of the new content in the game for free. If you're looking instead to continue playing without subscribing, there's also been some nice new upgrades to the free-to-play and preferred model, including the first 2 expansions being free. You can unlock all 4 newer expansions simply by subscribing for 1 month at about $15 USD. You no longer need to buy each expansion individually. Great. That means if you haven't subscribed in years, you'll get the Knights of the Fallen Empire, Knights of the Eternal Throne, Onslaught, and Legacy of the Sith expansions for only $15, less than the cost of a single expansion in the past. You can even unsubscribe the next month and you will keep your access to the expansions you unlocked. Unfortunately, the latest expansion, Legacy of the Sith, had a really rough launch. I review the game yearly, but this year I had to wait almost 6 months for all the content that was promised for this expansion to be fully released, because I didn't want to review a half-finished expansion. I was really sad to see that although the 7.0 expansion brought some really cool features like combat styles that I'll talk more about later, the actual release was really badly buggy on almost all fronts of the game. The story was incredibly short compared to past expansions, and a huge chunk of the content, including cosmetic weapons in the outfit designer, the new operation, and the new daily area, were all being delayed to a much later date. While the developers have never said exactly why this happened, I believe they bit off a bit more than they could chew when it came to upgrading the class systems, which was intertwined with almost every facet of the game, causing a domino effect of delays. If I'd reviewed the game at the beginning of the year, this review would have probably just have been me kicking my computer in frustration about dealing with all the bugs and strange design choices. Luckily, the most recent 7.1 update, combined with all the previous small bug fix patches, have put the game in a much better state, while Update 7.0 left me raging. Update 7.1 left me pleasantly surprised about how everything just seemed to be working, from the new Manon daily area to the new gearing changes. While 7.1 isn't bug-free or anything like that, it seems much more on par with previous updates, and a lot of my big issues with the 7.0 update have been smoothed over. I've been loving the newest updates operation, and all of the smaller updates that came with it. If the developers can continue with updates like this one, 7.1, we'll be in great shape. The big question is what the cadence of future updates will look like. How often will we get them? Now that I've talked your ear off about the recent expansion, let's cover everything the game has to offer to a returning player, because there is some really neat stuff added this year. Returning players have a couple huge reasons why they might want to return to the game and level a new character, or continue leveling an existing one. The big one being combat styles. When creating a new character, the first thing you'll immediately see is the new character creator. While it might not win any awards for Best Design in Show, it does come with an incredible new feature called Combat Styles. Combat Styles is actually a bunch of new changes all rolled up into one, but they all involve what used to be called your class and advanced class, so your story and the way your character fights in combat. In the new character creator, after you pick your faction, you'll be asked to separately choose 2 things. You'll first be asked to choose your origin story, and then you'll be asked to choose your combat style. Your origin story is a lot like your class from before. It's the story that you play, like the Jedi Knight or the Bounty Hunter. This is where things get interesting though. The restrictions that had existed since before launch about what combat style you played, previously known as your advanced class, have been removed, or at least less restricted. As a Jedi or a Sith, you still need to play a Jedi or Sith combat style, but you can make some crazy combinations like playing a sorcerer Sith warrior and shooting lightning while fighting, or even make a character that's a Jedi Knight in the story but is a marauder while in combat. You'll need to unlock the opposite alignment options first, but as a returning player, you likely already have them unlocked as they only require achieving the Dark 5 or Light 5 achievement on your server. Tech classes automatically have all tech class combat styles available from day one, so you can totally make a trooper sniper. The whole thing is really neat change that makes for some really fun gameplay and roleplay. In addition to that restriction opening up, another new feature was added that allows you to add a second combat style to your existing character. So for example, if you make a Sith warrior in the story and choose sorcerer as their combat style in the character creator, afterwards you can add a second combat style like the Shadow or the Guardian, and then you can flip-flop between the two. So in one fight you could be a Guardian, then the next day a sorcerer, all on the same character. This is amazing if you've ever wanted to change which advanced class you had picked, or allow you to more easily switch between some of your favorite advanced classes. In addition to all of that, the loadout system is what helps you keep track of switching between disciplines and combat styles. While they're not the most intuitive to understand, once you do get how they work, you can easily switch between DPS and tank at the click of the button with loadouts. The system saves your ability choices, gear, and even your cosmetic outfit. I've been using this feature on an almost daily basis at a high level, whether I'm playing solo or with a group. The final big change with combat styles was the ability tree, and a massive overhaul to all classes and their abilities. The most obvious thing you'll see when returning is that you won't have all your abilities at once. They aren't necessarily missing, but they are likely now located on your ability tree as part of a 3-part option choice. This reduction in abilities had a goal of making combat easier to take on for new players, though I'm not sure if it succeeded or not. I think the average player will likely notice little to no difference in how they were playing compared to before, but high-skill players who are using every single one of their abilities often express frustration about missing having all their useful abilities at once, and that includes me, though 6 months later, I care a lot less. I haven't missed it quite as much. The change does bring some interesting tactical decisions to high-end fights though. Should I bring a movement-focused ability or a defensive one? One thing we're still looking for improvements on is class balancing. While we got some improvements in Update 7.1, there are still some disciplines that are way ahead of the curve and some that are behind. It sounds like they're looking to address that in Update 7.1.1, but we have no idea if that will be enough or not. Gear has also changed a lot over the years, with each expansion bringing an entirely new system. The current system is a bit convoluted, but has a lot of different paths available to gear up. The game has returned to its previous stance that solo players should not be able to get the very best gear in the game, and with the newest operation released, even highly skilled players may no longer be able to earn the best gear, as it comes from the very, very difficult version of this operation. Update 7.1 did introduce a really nice way for solo players and group players to easily get some great gear, with a lot less work, including less work when it comes to gearing up alts. Modifying your armor was gone for a while, but seems to be back in fashion as of the most recent update. Okay, we got a little sidetracked talking about all the stuff related to combat styles, so let's go back to talking about leveling. The main class storylines are exactly the same as they were when the game launched, which is a good thing because they're fantastic. What has changed a lot is the way you level, gain XP, and many convenience perks that have been added along the way. First of all, when it comes to leveling, a huge shift was made in the way players are encouraged to experience the game. When the game originally came out, players were required to do almost every quest to gain enough XP so that they would be the correct level for the next area. This sometimes included doing more boring bonus series fetch quests or doing more of the side quests in between the amazing class story quest lines. Now, to make leveling easier, most of these types of quests are actually hidden from players by default. Instead, players are directed mostly towards their main class storyline and the main planetary storylines, which should give most players enough XP to progress without having to do any side quests. If you're returning and looking to just check out the class quests, veteran subscribed players who have unlocked the various XP boosts can often just do their class quests and still have enough XP to progress. Quick travel and ship travel is also more accessible than ever, making it easier to travel around the map and between planets and skipping lots of loading screens. Next up, let's talk about the difficulty of the game. Returning players who had difficulty with combat may be pleased to know that the game is now much easier to play. One of the main focuses of the game is story, and the developers have made changes to make the game more accessible even to the most casual of players. This includes making the fights in the original class stories easier, making heroics soloable, adding the option of soloing some of the important story flashpoints with an all-powerful droid who will heal and tank for you, and allowing players to make their companions incredibly strong. At times, your companion may even be more powerful than you are. Did I mention they've also changed it so now any companion can tank, DPS, or heal? At a low level, a while ago, a feature called Level Sync was added, which will shift your level down temporarily, so you're never over-leveled and can always get XP from a quest even if you're too high of a level. The downside is that you can't rampage your way across lower-level planets. As of the most recent expansion, level sync was shifted slightly and some low-level fights got a little funky. For some fights or planets, you may just need to go upgrade your gear a bit, while others you may need to get a friend to come give you a hand if you get stuck. The developers have been slowly finding these especially nasty fights and fixing them, but there's still a few out there that are particularly nasty. If you're finding the leveling content too easy, the good news is there are more challenging modes available for players at later levels. Players who have access to the Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion and its sequel have the option to play through its chapters on Story Mode, Veteran Mode, or Master Mode, and as of 7.0, the Master Modes are so difficult they're almost impossible to solo. There's also Veteran Mode and Master Mode operations for players who enjoy challenging group content, and skilled players can always take themselves into PvP and dominate the charts there. Solo players have also been tackling Veteran and Master Mode group Flashpoints solo as a challenge lately, especially since it's a great source of gear. Story Mode operations, however, are now easier than ever, as Update 7.1 brought a reduction to the health pool of almost every boss, and even some of the harder ones like Gods from the Machine and Nature of Progress have been specifically tweaked to make them more accessible. The newest operation, though, is a thing to behold. R4 Anomaly, the new operation, is currently the hardest piece of content in the game. Most players will never be able to defeat even the first boss of Story Mode, and very, very few teams have successfully completed the more difficult version. Now let's talk about population and player base. Instead of having many smaller servers, Star Wars: The Old Republic now has 5 mega servers. While some servers were very quiet before the merge, all 5 servers currently have a good population, except for the French server, sorry. Star Wars: The Old Republic's exact population is a bit mysterious and hard to count because we don't have any numbers of those using the original launcher, but at least from the Steam charts, it's been pretty steady in the last 2 years or so, and the game being added to Steam seems to continue to be paying off even 2 years down the road. Another common question I see asked is this a dead game? While the update cadence of the game isn't as frequent as most longtime players would want it to be, the game is by no means dead either. This year's expansion brought a huge overhaul to many of the game's systems that I discussed earlier that really points towards the developer team investing in the game's infrastructure and future. This big change brought big delays to the last expansion, which were only fixed as of the last update mid-2022. So we'll have to wait and see if the development team can catch up with a more frequent update schedule next year. As for whether the game will stop receiving updates or be sunsetted in the future, SWTOR is looking like it's in an okay place. I don't think the development team would waste so much time, effort, and resources on all the combat styles updates if they were just looking to shut the game down next year. With that said, I don't think we'll be seeing updates on the scale and pace of other major developers in this online space anytime soon. But the game still seems to have enough support from the development team and enough of a player base to keep being updated regularly for a while. Now let's go over some of the stuff that has been added to the game after its launch, because I know there's a ton of you out there who are checking out the game after a 10-year break. The biggest additions to the game are of course the 6 expansions. Each one has a whole new wave of story content for you to check out. Here's the bad news though. Although the expansions are pretty good, they no longer offer a unique class storyline, and your playthrough on a Sith Inquisitor will be similar to your playthrough on an Imperial Agent. The first expansion, Rise of the Hutt Cartel, and the latest expansions, Onslaught and Legacy of the Sith, offer 2 storylines, one for Imperial players and one for Republic players. Shadow of Revan offers only a single streamlined storyline, but has a mini class quest for each class. Knights of the Fallen Empire and Knights of the Eternal Throne only offer a single storyline, with some key cutscene changes depending on whether your character leans towards the dark side or the light side. So how are the expansions in 2022? When it comes to the stories of the expansions, players have very mixed feelings about whether or not they can be considered good. Some players love them, and some players hate them. Either way, they are quite a departure from the original class storylines. The latest expansion, Legacy of the Sith, has a focus on the classic Republic vs. Empire storyline, but it's incredibly short. Even with their flaws, I would still say SWTOR's expansions are definitely worth at least a one-time playthrough, especially since you can unlock them permanently, all for the cost of 1 month's subscription. Not to mention the first 2 are now free. All of the newer expansions also have really great updated cinematic cutscenes. Another addition is Conquest. Conquests are a way of completing rotating weekly objectives that allow you to earn some great rewards by playing different parts of the game. You gain points by completing certain tasks like Flashpoints or Warzones, which change each week. Conquest is also a way for guilds to compete against each other and work together as a group. There are additional rewards you can earn if your guild also meets their guild goals. Conquest was first introduced in 2014 and has had numerous iterations over the years. Speaking of guilds, the guild panel and guild features have been given a major upgrade since launch. There have been changes to how you can sort and organize guild members, guild mail, guild heraldry symbols, guild flagships, guild levels, and guild perks. Here's another update. A few years ago, a new system was introduced to the game called the Login Rewards System that rewards players with items simply for logging in once a day. This new system lets you play at your own pace and does not punish you for not logging in every day. The rewards range from being junk items to pretty nice unique items like purple sparkle powder and different types of tokens. While this isn't a groundbreaking addition, it is something new to come check out in the game, not to mention being able to get some free stuff. The year before last, a really cool new system was added called Galactic Seasons, a feature that a lot of players have been enjoying and logging in for. Galactic Seasons is kind of similar to Conquest in that it has different weekly and daily objectives, but rather than completely resetting each week, it has a 5-month cycle and 100 different levels of rewards to unlock. These rewards range from cool cosmetic items you can only get through the Seasons track, to previously retired promotional items like Shade Vizsla and Daz Ranos. They also give the ability to earn 2 new Strongholds and a new companion each season. Because the Galactic Seasons rewards are only available to be earned while a season is live, you'll see a lot of players working together online during an active season. 2022 brought the second Galactic season to the game, with a lot of improvements over the inaugural season. While we don't have a date for Galactic Seasons Season 3, a lot of players are guessing it will take place during the holidays of 2022. Galactic Seasons have been a great reason to return to older content, or content that I don't normally play, and have been a great addition to both the fun and the population of the game while they're active. Ooh, let's backtrack a bit to that population chart. You'll actually notice that there's a pretty big dip starting around July 2022 that doesn't seem to be directly tied to either the expansion release or the most recent big update. This dip actually comes from the end of Galactic Seasons, Season 2. It's pretty clear that a lot of players were really enjoying the season while it was active, and my guess is because it gave everyone a really cool, compelling reason to log in and play for an hour or two during a limited time event with great rewards like weapons and cartel coins. At the time of recording this video, we just got the news that Galactic Season 3 will be coming with update 7.1.1. We don't have a date yet, but it sounds like it will be this year. So if you're not looking to jump in right now, you're like, I just want to watch the video right now, I'm not ready to play, keep your eyes open for the date for Galactic Seasons 3, as that is likely a great time to jump back in with players logging back in to earn the new set of rewards for Season 3. Players who enjoy group content will be pleased to find out that a lot has been added to the game since launch. For the 4-man group Flashpoints, there are now around 44 Flashpoints available to play with friends or random players in the group finder. Many 8-man and 16-man operations have also been added to the game, and there are now 12 operations plus 5 single boss operations available. If you haven't played in a long time, you're really gonna enjoy the new content, especially because the developers have made the fights a lot less tank and spank than the operations that were available near the beginning of the game. If you're hopping into operations, expect a lot of surprises along the way. Let's start talking about the actual player versus environment stuff that was released. So first off, there was just a ton of Flashpoints that have been released since the launch of the game. Just so incredibly many. I've got the list up on the screen. You can look at the written version of this guide if you want to read about them all instead. But the newest ones that have been added, if you've been out for a while, are Spirit of Vengeance, the really nostalgic Dantooine Flashpoint called Secrets of the Enclave, and the newest Flashpoint is called Ruins of Null on the planet of Elam. On top of all those new Flashpoints, most of which also have a solo mode available. Many of the Flashpoints from the original launch of the game now also have a solo mode available, so if you missed out on doing them when you played back in the day because you couldn't find a group, you can now play some of those Flashpoints alone. While it's not quite a Flashpoint, I wasn't sure where to put this, one of my favorite additions to the game is called Eternal Championship. It's a solo dueling tournament with rounds of enemies to defeat, which is a really fun solo challenge. Players who haven't played in a long time who enjoy operations won't be disappointed either, so there's currently 12 different operations in the game. The 3 newest operations are Gods from the Machine, which is part of the Iocast storyline, an intense and mechanics-heavy operation that players who enjoy difficult content will love. And the second most recent is called Nature of Progress, an easier operation with lots of fun and unique mechanics, which is set on Duxon and is tied loosely to the Onderon storyline. The most recent operation, R4 Anomaly, is incredibly hard, both numbers and mechanics heavy, so it's perfect for players looking for a challenge. I only recently was able to fully beat the story mode for this one, and the whole thing is very neat. It's got a great atmosphere and each boss is very unique. Players who enjoy player versus player content also have some new maps to discover depending on when they last played. In addition to the original 3 PvP maps, there is Ancient Hypergates and Odessan Proving Grounds, which have an entirely different rule set compared to the original maps, a reskin of Alderaan Civil War set on Yavin, and 6 new arenas which are objective-less deathmatch maps, including the Mandalorian Battle Ring. With the addition of player housing, you can now also duel with your friends and create your own arena layouts. The Rishi Hideaway Stronghold even has an area that you can turn into a hutball map or deathmatch map with your own layout and a section dedicated to dueling. Ranked PvP Season 14 ended with the last expansion, and dates for Ranked Season 15 have not been announced yet. We do know that some type of PvP revamp is aimed to come with Update 7.2, but we don't know when that will be or exactly what will be revamped. If you'd like to try your hand at PvP in the sky, Galactic Starfighter was also added to the game, which allows you to pilot your own spaceship against other players. Unfortunately, this mode of play is one of the least popular in the game and can sometimes be difficult to get into matches, but the players who do enjoy it really enjoy it, so it is possible to find Starfighter communities to group up with. There's a total of 4 space PvP maps now available, 2 of which both have domination and team deathmatch modes available. While the population participating in GSF has always been on the lower side compared to the other parts of the game, an active Galactic Seasons season tends to bump up the players in matches looking to complete their season objectives. Since the launch of the game, a series of rotating events has been released. They last about a week long, and which ones are available at any given time switches around, and they offer unique rewards that can't be found anywhere else. If you played back in the day, you may have heard of the Rakghoul event, or the Gree event, or the Bounty Contract Week event, but there are some newer ones. There's the Dantooine Pirate event on the nostalgic Dantooine. There's the Swoop event, a non-combat focused solo racing tournament that lasts a week. There's the Feast of Prosperity event, which is a 3-week-long cooking based fall event. It's very silly. It's got mini games and cooking dishes and stuff like that. And of course, we'll see the Live Day event return in the winter with even more Wookiees to hug than ever before. And the Nightlife Casino event in the summer, which seems to get new rewards each year. Outside of the main expansion storylines, there's also many planets to go explore, each with their own storyline and daily quests to take a look at. So there's a black hole on Corellia, Section X, CZ-198, Oricon, Ziost, Iokath, Osis, Dantooine during peacetime, Onderon and Mek-Sha, and Manon, which was added in Update 7.1. Personally, I really enjoy the storylines attached to these planets, and they really help flesh out the world outside of the expansion story, so they're worth at least one run through. While we didn't get a crafting update with the most recent expansion, and crafting seems to be less tied into endgame than ever, there have been some great additions to crafting over the years. One of the biggest changes is the Legacy Material Bay. All your crafting materials automatically go into a bay shared by all your characters on your server, and you no longer have to keep them in your inventory or banks. Crafting also has a lot more fun and cosmetic options available compared to the launch of the game, including more crystals, dyes, and armor sets, and even some mounts. A few years after the game's launch, player housing was introduced to the game. Players can create and share a house between all their characters and decorate it with decorations from around the galaxy. New decorations are released on a regular basis, and there are lots of convenience decorations like cargo holds and GTNs. Players can get strongholds on these planets: Coruscant, Dromikas, Nar Shaddaa, Tatooine, Yavin 4, Manon, a moving train on the planet of Umbara, a stronghold with a private beach on Rishi, the Alderaan Palace, and most recently, strongholds are a matching set of small apartment-style Imperial and Republic fleet strongholds. Although strongholds have been in the game for a while, they've become a staple in the game's updates, and every new content updates brings new decorations for you to earn, including a whole slew of decos from the new Manon Daily area. There have also been some great updates to Cosmetic Armor available in the game since launch. One of the big ones is the Outfit Designer. You can now have the appearance of your favorite armor while not sacrificing the stats of the armor you need for combat. Nice! Armors can now be dyed and take on different colors, and there are hundreds of dyes available. There are now animated armors and armors that have special effects when you draw your weapon. Weapons can now have a weapon tuning attached to them, which gives them a special animated effect. The biggest update in fashion for 2022 has been finally adding weapons to the Outfit Designer. Yes! You can now use the appearance of one weapon and the stats of another. They just have to be the same type of weapon. This feature has been requested for years, and I'm so excited to finally see it in-game for all my fashionistas out there. One really hot topic related to the cosmetics this year, however, has been inflation. While the in-game economy has been messy for many years in Star Wars: The Old Republic, this year it seems to have reached a critical mass, and inflation is so bad that many of the most sought-out cosmetic items have become so expensive that they are no longer listed on the GTN, making them virtually impossible to find. To give a quick example of inflation, at level 80, by using my How to Make Credits guide, you can earn 100 million credits in about 2 hours, which is pretty crazy. But it's not going to help you much if your favorite lightsaber is valued at over 1 billion credits and you never see it for sale on the GTN or the cartel market. The developers have been slowly introducing more credit patches and syncs this year, but it's clear some type of bigger overarching fix is going to have to come in the future, though it's unclear exactly what that might look like or when it might happen. The good news is the inflation mostly only affects cosmetic items to such a drastic degree, except for augments, which are constantly climbing in price. In short, returning players have these things to look forward to. Reaching level 80, 6 expansions, a ton of Flashpoints, many of which also have solo story mode available, and the short and cutscene light Uprising Flashpoints. A total of 12 operations available in various modes, more PvP maps, Galactic Starfighter, Conquest, Galactic Seasons while it's running, player housing and decorations, and lots of nice quality of life upgrades along the way. If you didn't hear a single thing in that list that caught your interest, then returning to the game might not be worth it to you. If you've taken a long break or haven't played since launch though, there has been a ton of content added over the years to dig into, and you don't have to break the bank by buying each expansion now that you can unlock them all through your subscription or even play the first 2 expansions for free. So is Star Wars: The Old Republic worth returning to? This question is going to be based mainly on the reason you left in the first place, and how long ago you last played. If you left near the launch of the game because you felt there wasn't enough content available, you're going to be blown away by how much there is available now. Lots more story, lots more operations, lots more flashpoints, lots more daily planets, and lots more to do in general. On the flip side, if you left like 5 years ago because you finished all the story, I would say it's worth returning, if only to check out the newest stories, including the Onslaught expansion, and I really liked the following story called Echoes of Oblivion. If you're looking to rejoin during the Legacy of the Sith expansion but were turned off by the negative reviews, now is a much better time to check things out. If you left during Legacy of the Sith due to not liking the new gearing system, it hasn't changed much, but there is a new path available you might like a bit better for gearing. If you left after Legacy of the Sith because you ran out of things to do, not a ton has been added except for a new story patch. Maybe wait for whatever 8.0 brings before you return if you want a big slew of content to play. If you left before you ever reached max level, I think it would be worth it to return now that leveling has been streamlined. You'll get to endgame a lot faster and can focus on the best storyline and skip the side quests. If you left because you didn't like the graphics or animations, although the graphics are better than at launch, at their core they're still the same style 10 years later, so it's probably not worth it for you to return. You'll have to look for a next-gen game to play. Same thing with combat. If you didn't enjoy Star Wars The Old Republic's combat, it hasn't changed much since launch. Though if you really want to give it another go, I would suggest heavily trying a different class, as different classes can have a very different playstyle, which is easier than ever to do with the combat style system. If you left due to technical reasons, well, the game still has lots of technical issues, but likely not the same ones as when you left. Might as well give it a shot, especially if you can try downloading it through the Steam launcher instead. And we just found out, literally the day I'm recording this, that the original launcher is also getting an overhaul, the one from SWTOR.com. If you left due to real-life reasons, one very nice thing is that because Star Wars The Old Republic is so story-focused, expansions never make past storylines irrelevant. You can easily pick up wherever you left off or start a new character at level 1, no matter how many expansions have come out since you last played. I hope this video has given you the information you've been looking for to help you decide if you want to return to the game or not. If you decided it's not for you, good luck, and I hope you find another good game you like to play. If you have decided to return, welcome back! My entire channel is focused on Star Wars The Old Republic guides both for new players and veteran players. Good luck, and may the Force be with you!